Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Lens. This is Jake along with Scott, and guess what, boys and girls? We have Michael Burton for 2 in a row, so it's a little bit of a streak. We're excited to get some consistency here as he gets ready to move back home to the Bourbon Land. But how's everybody doing on this Monday evening?
National Bourbon Day, by the way.
Yeah.
It's going to be a couple weeks out, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We got storms and rain here, so what perfect way to celebrate National Bourbon Day than to hang out with you guys and sip some whiskey.
There you go.
It was a scorcher here today.
Yeah,
my AC is really stretching its limits, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I had we bought a mattress on Memorial Day, and they couldn't take it away last week, so the guys had to come pick it up this week, and just like walking up the hill at my house to grab the mattress, they were breaking a sweat. They go, this is terrible.
Well, you do need
get extra money for this.
You do need cougar paws and a rock pick to get up to your house through your driveway.
Everest ain't that bad.
I honestly think that you have the steepest driveway of anybody I've ever seen. Getting up to your houses, it's a struggle, and sometimes getting down, I think I just want to lay down and roll down it. But
we do like a slip and slide down it. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be pure death if you did a slip and slide from your house. You'd go 3 streets over before you stopped.
Yeah, you get the little ramp at the end with the curve. It'd be good.
That's a concussion.
Hey, what's a medical bill if you've hit your deductible?
That's true.
Oh man! But anyway, it's pretty exciting. We also saw some news from the Bourbon Festival today. They announced all the distillery collaborations that are going to be at the Bourbon Festival, along with, if you have a general admission ticket or a VIP ticket, they announced some experiences you can go to. One I had my eyes on was the Bottled and Bond experience, sponsored by Heaven Hill. So $75, 4:00, little happy hour type thing. So if you are going to the Bourbon Festival, you might want to look into those experiences before they sell out.
I bet there's probably going to be some old Fitz Bottled and Bond with that one.
Just a few.
just take a stab in the dark. I don't think they'll be breaking out the JTS Brown. So
anywho, we were talking about the AC and beating the heat. One of the things that we were talking about last week, just after the podcast, was what are some bourbons or whiskeys that we would drink in the summertime? And that got us to thinking, what's on our bar that we could, sip, by the pool or out back. So that's what we're going to be talking about: summer bourbons or whiskeys. So when you think about that, Michael, what do you think of that makes a good summer bourbon or a whiskey for you?
When we were thinking about topic of this episode and trying to think through what I would pick, it was kind of difficult. And I figured I'd kind of just lean towards the profiles that I generally go for. And I don't know, one of the questions I guess I'll ask you is, and this kind of seems to come around to me at the summertime of the years when I get back into finished whiskeys a little bit more. Something that I like to keep under that 100 proof point. I generally go sweeter in the summertime, easier to sip. And one of those that come to mind is always Starlight. I mean, I don't know if it's just the nostalgia of us always going out to visit Starlight through the summer months and hanging out there and getting to know Christian and the whole group out there. But that's one that I typically kind of go for towards the summer months as well. But I don't know, Scott, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think as the temperature goes up, I think the proof has to come down for me, at least. Probably generally under 100 proof. I mean, I don't want anything near barrel proof, but really just don't look for those dark, rich flavors. You kind of look for something lighter, a little bit fruitier, sweeter. Yeah, I mean, finished. That's a good point. Finished bourbons are pretty good if you can get them a little bit lower proof. One that popped in my mind was Legion, which I need to revisit that sometime, but I think that's like a 94 proof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had it, I think, since we had it on the podcast, maybe like in the teens, episodes in the teens, so over 100 episodes ago.
Yeah. I think you all are both making interesting points. I think of like a flagship that is a perfect like summer bourbon. Like off the bat, I was like, a cop out would be like Elijah Craig, 94 proof, especially if you're getting some of those store picks. that are 9-10 years. You get a little bit of maturity there. But, I think younger whiskey is a good opportunity here. 4 to 6 year old whiskey. You could look at your Heaven Hills, Green Label that's back out on the shelves, things of that nature that are in that 90 proof category that you would lean in on. So, and I thought of going more expensive, right? Like, because you all always say I go for expensive whiskey. And my other thought was like, like Rabbit Hole has Derringer, which is, sherry finish with wheat whiskey or wheat bourbon. And so that kind of gives you the best of both worlds. Like you get the sherry finish plus, a sweeter bourbon with that wheated mash bill on the back end. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. And so I think we challenged ourselves to go find something that we would drink in the summer off our bar. So what kind of, Scott, you have your profile of nutty bourbons, but where did you go and what distilleries did you look at when you thought about, curating your summer bar that you would have at the pool?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily at the pool, but just even on a warm summer night, something like that. Because I don't really like to drink a lot at the pool because sometimes it can just be a pain in the ass.
And
don't want.
And heat and eat just aren't great together.
Yeah, if you're going to put it on the rocks, I mean, that's one thing. Make a cocktail with it. But, I mean, I just think lower proof, typically. Old Fitz 80 proof. That's just a classic for me. It's usually always around my bar. It's easy to drink. It's not going to light you on fire. It's not going to make you sweat. And just got a little bit of sweetness to it. And if you wanted to, you just make it into a highball, add some ice and maybe some club soda or something like that, or hell, put Coke in it. I don't really care.
See, I kind of, interestingly enough, I think I might actually prefer, if I'm going to be just kind of hanging out and drinking something on ice, I think in the summer months, that's when I kind of go towards those higher proofs though, just because that ice kind of cuts it down to like what I was just talking about when I drinking stuff neat around that 90 to 100 proof point, kind of brings it down right there to where you want it to be. And I think it was last summer that I tried the old trick of just putting a lemon peel in your cup, kind of zesting the bourbon with a little bit of lemon peel and then throwing that in there for a little twist. And that was actually kind of interesting, changed things up and was pretty good. Gives a little zip.
A simple cocktail.
Yeah.
Two ingredients.
I was looking at different cocktails for bourbon, right? Like we had someone reach out and they had a flavored bourbon, but there's a variety of things you can do with like different juices and things like, people love margaritas. We were approached by, I think 291 about their whiskey Rita. And then Duke and Dame sent us a whole list of cocktail opportunities. I think that's another way, if you like your bourbons, do you want something that stands up in a cocktail or do you want something that accentuates a cocktail and you like more of the fruit juices and what have you? So I think you could go with a highball or a simple twist, like Michael said, or you can go on like full blown cocktail.
Well, I stole the twist idea from Julian Van Winkle, obviously, but I mean, he knows his bourbon, so I figure if anybody knows that a lemon goes well in a bourbon, it would be him. He wasn't wrong.
Couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
I guess one thing I haven't talked to you about is those Beam seltzers that Jim Beam sent to us to try out. I had that a couple weekends ago at the pool, in between beers and just to give it a shot. And I thought that the classic highball was very good. I mean, it tasted like how I would make a highball. Club soda, ice, and the other one was a little bit too sweet, but that was made with ginger ale.
Yeah. So I'm guessing it was white label Beam, right? Like, I don't know if it says on there, but I'm assuming. I think that's, ready-made cocktails are becoming a big thing too, right? Like we saw Courtney from Picks and Pours posted like on her Delta flight, they had an old fashioned and it said simple. It was like bourbon, sugar, and bitters, right? Like that's how they like made a canned cocktail, and Jim Beam is doing that. And I know Jack Daniels has done that in the past. So what do you all think about, that type of, ready-made cocktails? Are you all a fan? Do you give them a try, or, you rather make your own cocktail at home?
It's tough because I think sometimes the proof can be off on them, and sometimes it's a little bit too high and maybe not what you're looking for. But I don't know. Like canned cocktails just can be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
What would be considered a canned cocktail? Like, you're not talking like White Claw.
No, hell no.
I don't know that I've ever had a canned cocktail other than like, I don't know, Mike's Hard Lemonade back in the day, but Jack Daniels made that Jack and Coke mixer. Yeah, but
like there's one that's out there. It's called Slow and Low, which is Slow and Low Rock and Rye, which is a twist on how they used to add rock candy to whiskey, generally rye whiskey. I've had a little bit of that. It's just so sweet.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just not my style. If I'm getting sweetness, I want a little bit of sweetness in the bourbon. I don't need sweetness from like honey and sugar and all that stuff. Because even like in a old fashioned I'm making, I'm relying more on the whiskey, less on the sugar, and I like the bitters to go with it. So I always cut down the sugar in an old fashioned.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's opportunity, right? Like I'm going to give the Jim Beam. I've not gone to the pool and like hung out all summer, so I'm going to give them a try when we go and do a pool day, which I think is going to be Sunday for Father's Day. I'll take some over to my parents' house and hang out by the pool and we're grilling up some chicken and some brats, and I'll probably crack one of those, see what it's like. I don't know. I think it's an interesting fad. I guess my other thing is, we've talked about bourbon mostly, but this is where, in my estimation, lower proof ryes come in big for me here, because you get that vibrant citrus. So what do you all think about like those lower proof, like citrusy ryes in a situation where it's summer out and you can get kind of the cocktail or cocktail feels from like a margarita or tequila with those citrus type of things, and then you can get that from a whiskey?
My mind kind of just drifts directly to the Manhattan or an old fashioned, whatever. But,
no, I mean, I think that makes sense. I poured some High West double rye. So I have the American Prairie Bourbon and the double rye. Both are 92 proof. Both have drank very, very easy in the two pours I've had. But like, this one has some like botanicals and citrus in it, which is really nice. And I know Scott like turned me on to gin a couple summers ago for easy drinking with some ice and some like Fresca or club soda or whatever.
So the question is, did you ever get the Denver and Lally gin glass?
I didn't.
When I'm drinking gin, it's going to be in a highball glass. I don't know. It's just easier that way because you can put a shit ton of ice in there, a shit ton of gin, and a little bit of
juice,
lime or whatever else. Yeah.
You a gin and juice guy, like Snoop Dogg?
Gin and lemonade is probably a quick and easy way to get some booze into if you just want a simple cocktail.
Or vodka and a needle, if you really.
Yeah, just inject it.
Let's do butt chug. Let's go.
No, thank you. I never thought I'd hear that word come from Jake.
That's Jake's summer drink, the butt chug.
Hey, I mean,
some sweet, succulent rye whiskey.
No, so I mean, I think there's a variety of opportunities, right? We've talked about the cocktails, we've talked about ready-made cocktails, we've talked about bourbons. And are there any other? And we've talked about other spirits, but are there anything else in the whiskey category that you might lean into? I know, Scott, you said you might have an idea of another one. So, is there something that kind of comes to your mind?
Yeah, I was thinking like American single malts. I think that category, how it's expanded so much, and they've done finishes similar to. Not even finishes, but just aging in second use barrels. So you can get some of that, like what Michael was saying, how you get some barrel influence that might bring in some sweeter characteristics. But most of the American single malts that are out there are less than 100 proof. I mean, they're right in that 90 to 95 range. I was thinking about Westland. They've got a few different ones. They've got their American oak one. They've got a sherry one. If you want to dabble into peat, they've also got a peated one. But I would recommend mixing the peated and the sherry and letting it sit for a few weeks. That has the right amount of peat, which I never thought I would say, because any amount of peat is too much peat. But the salinity with the sweet sherry works pretty well for that. So yeah, American single malts, they're typically lighter in flavor and they're just easier to drink. Second fill barrels.
Yeah, that's a good point on the American single malts, and it kind of makes me think too back to when we had did the Japanese whiskey episode or the Irish whiskey episode. I think those would kind of come into play here too through those summer months, and you'd be really happy with those.
So I think Japanese whiskeys could be interesting in the summer. I was looking through my bar. What I realized is I don't want something a lot. I said this earlier, but I don't want a lot of age because I don't want a lot of oak influence. I'd rather have more of the younger. Wyoming was one that came to my mind, right, as something that could be really unique. Buffalo Trace barrel pick or store picks could be unique. Uh-huh. That's where I look for standard offerings in that 90 proof, 100 proof category that might give you some funkiness, right? That's what I was thinking. And then, I like what Michael said around, finishes and find some stuff in that category. I think that's where I would lean in. I really don't think these High West Double Rye and High West American Prairie are going to last long. I mean, I've had multiples of these bottles, but now that I drank these.
I'm surprised since you went with two different High West products that you didn't mention Midwinter's Night Stream, even though in the name of that it says winter, but I feel like that'd be a great summer drink.
I mean, I did have that the other night. That was pretty good, and it was outside, so
I think you throw that over ice and it's basically a Manhattan, right? Yeah. That's what it is. I would lean more to like the Yippee-Ki-Yay probably because it's more like that sweet tea flavor. Throw that on some ice. I think it's right there. I can look at it and I can see it, but I'm not going to get it. I think it's nice.
His mouth's watering. You can taste it.
It is. I do have a little saliva going right now. It's probably because I just poured another glass of this double rye, but there's a lot of
probably
whiskey.
The exit of the butt chug, but
yeah, Lauren's in for a long night if I just butt chug some whiskey. But God blessed the butt chug. That's what we're going to talk about. I really think I'm going to lean into exploring some more ryes this summer. Another rye that I really like, I think that could be really good in the summer would be Castle and Keys Restoration Rye. I've not had any of the new releases or the new vintages, but I like the batch one that we have, and I think that could be really solid during summer.
I can help you out with that. The 2021.
Did it finally show up?
It finally showed up after over a month. I don't know what happened, but yikes. That was a disaster.
Excited to try that one. Because the first one was good. The first one was real good. So what else?
Maybe I'll bring it over and we'll do a comparison.
Yeah. So what else do you all have on your all's bar that, so I've thrown out what I've thought about. What else do you all have sitting there in front of y'all?
Right now that we're drinking on?
Yeah.
I am currently, I just finished the Chattanooga whiskey, straight bourbon whiskey, the 91 proofer, which, I don't think we need to even speak anymore about it. I kind of hits all the notes that we just talked about, but I just poured the Belle Meade Reserve bourbon, the 108 proof. So we'll see how this goes.
Okay. Little
yeah, and I think, that's funny because my last option was something I was trying to be a little bit more creative, not go with an 80 to 100 proof. So I pulled out a bottle of Russell's. It's a single barrel pick, 110 proof, non-chill filtered. Add a cube of ice to that. I think it's going to stand up. It's not going to get real watery if you use a large cube. maybe Kentucky Straight Ice. I think it's going to hold up, and that non-chill filter will probably help it not feel so watery, like most bourbons can do when you add ice.
Yeah.
I think we're going to drive the purist absolutely nuts in this episode.
Well, the purist always wants high proof right out of the barrel, right?
They drink 140 proof bourbon all the time, all day, every day, morning, noon, and night. That's all they drink. They drink it neat. They never mess around with beer. That's all they drink. No gin, no nothing. It's like, okay.
It's not just butt chug season. It's swamp ass season. And ain't nobody need to be breathing fire out their ass and their mouth at the same time.
I can't do the 140 proof, 130 proof unless it's maybe like 5 degrees outside and I need to stay warm.
So like that was really interesting. Like on Saturday, I had a couple friends over and we did a flight. The highest one was a medley. It was 127 or 126, and everything else was like foolproof or cask strength at 116, 113, or 110. Michter's barrel strength is 108. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that their proof was so low on their barrel strength bourbons.
Yeah, they got a low barrel entry proof.
Yeah, so like to be honest though, all 4 of the ones we had, the High Bank, Whiskey War, Peerless Single Barrel, the Liquor Barn pick, we did the barrel strength Michter's, and we did a medley pick. And none of those drank super hot. So there's plenty of whiskey out there that is more for an evening whiskey in the summer. I think that's 2 different things, right? If you're drinking whiskey during the day, you're probably going to want to go 80 to less than 100. But if you are drinking at night, maybe indoors or, out like around a campfire to keep the bugs away, you may be able to go a little bit higher proof on the rocks or something.
I would just like to report that on this Bell Mead, it is too hot. For right now.
It's too hot for Florida.
Yeah. It's live reporting from Michael Burton at 9:17 Eastern. Hey, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Well, that's an interesting one because they brought it down to 108 proof, which is I don't believe is cast strength because they did have a cast strength. Yeah, they had another one that was cast strength, but I think remember last time, for consistency's sake.
The reason I pulled this one is because I remember last time, and it's been a while since I've had it, but I remember the last time I had it, it was just like overly like sweet, just like burnt sugar. I thought maybe that'll be really good on a summer night, but yeah, it's a little too hot right now.
Yeah, I mean, and our palates change with the seasons too. Like I like sweeter foods in the summer versus saltier foods in the winter, right? Like that's just kind of how my palate, I don't know, I feel like it works because I've eaten a lot of savory foods lately. I'm like, they don't taste that great. And so I want more sweet things right now. So the bourbons I've drank have not, unless they're weeded or they're super sweet, I've not necessarily cared for them as much as I have for the sweeter bourbons and rye whiskeys that I've drank lately. I don't know if you all have like your palate swings like that, from season to season.
Sometimes you just get tired of the same old stuff and you got to have something different.
Yeah, true.
I mean, it's like I'm just not feeling certain things now. Bourbon is always good, but I think that's a proof difference too.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was a lot of fun because like I drank 4 different types of whiskey that I don't normally drink on Saturday. Like that was kind of cool, right? Like, and then I had a beer on Sunday and now back to whiskey today. But like, I thought was pretty cool on Saturday because I don't drink those brands often. And it was cool to taste that Whiskey War, which is, won all those best small batch blended whiskey at San Francisco.
When always comparing things side by side is the best way to taste anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like, I'm drinking one whiskey tonight. I'm gonna write a review on it. That doesn't work because tonight you might not really want a rye whiskey. So then, taste it side by side with a bourbon and see, is the bourbon Maybe both of them are bad. Maybe your palate's just all jacked up because you had hot wings and garlic or something. Who knows?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised neither one of you said Frey Ranch.
I think Frey Ranch is spicy.
I do too. I was waiting to see if one of you all said that, but at 92 for a 92 proof, I think it is spicy.
I think the cast strength one it's got some heat to it.
Yeah,
a lot of flavor, but it's got some heat to it.
I think it's a fall, winter, early spring bourbon. Now, I don't remember what their rye tastes like, to be honest. So I could go back to that and give that a whirl. But I don't, to be honest, it's been a while, so I'm not necessarily sure that. I also, just to throw out something that I was really impressed with, I talked about this on Thursday, but that Riverset rye, that stuff's good. I was really impressed with that.
Is that the one that the guy was from Tennessee and puts the barrels on a barge?
No, that's O.H. Ingram.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of distillate out there that could be, mentioned there. Another one that we didn't talk about was 8 and Sand from MGP. I really like that one too.
I drank that last night. Yeah. I was like, I didn't know what to grab, and I was like, I just want a bourbon.
Isn't it 88? I guess moral of the story is if you go look for whiskey and bourbon that are under 100 proof, there's a ton of it. You just have to be smart about it, and you have to go and do a little bit of homework. So you can not grab something that may be spicy and you want something sweet, or maybe you want something more citrusy, right? Well, you just got to just make sure you're doing your due diligence. But all in all, I mean, I think there's a lot of variety that you can choose from to drink whiskey in the summer if you don't necessarily want to breathe fire or, have swamp ass or butt chug it.
Good thing we're an explicit podcast. We do not recommend or condone butt chugging.
So as we close up here, if you were to recommend one bourbon or whiskey just in general that you would say, hey, this would be one of my summer go-tos, what would you recommend to someone to go buy that's readily available?
I guess, again, that's kind of a tough question, just based upon it solely being for the warmer months. But I guess I'll take it back to what I said at the beginning. Just because I don't know, not even going to name one product because Starlight has so many, but I think that you could go out there at any time of the year, go visit Starlight, hang out for the day, go to their gift shop area, and you can buy any of they always have different products out there seems like every week or every month. So I think that you could just go out there and pick up one of their finished bottles and give that a go, and you can't go wrong. So I'm just going to go with them in general.
Scott, what about you?
You can give a political answer like I did.
Well, I started to think of something else while I was thinking. It's kind of dangerous, but the Bullet, like 104 proof single barrels.
Yeah, those are good.
That might be. If I had to pick one, I think I would kind of lean, now that we've kind of talked through all this, and I think I would lean towards something maybe a little bit higher than 100 proof. We talked about Russell's 110 proof, non-chill filtered. Maybe also like Bullet, single barrels are 104 proof. If I brought Old Fitz to a party, cheap ass, if somebody adds ice to that, what's the proof at that point? Like 60, 70 proof? I mean, it's already proof down enough.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Maybe.
That's what I was saying, like going for those, it's like the best time of the year actually to go for those barrel proofs. Throw some Kentucky ice in there. You're good.
I would lean towards the Russells probably. I mean, for $60 to keep it on your bar, you drink it in the evening when you're inside and it's not so damn hot, you'd be fine with it. You want to drink it outside on the rocks, I think you're going to be fine with that too. With a cigar, can't go wrong with Wild Turkey. It's just a versatile bourbon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think both of you all have said some really good things. I'm going to be very, very simple here. If you want something that's on your shelf every day, just go buy Elijah Craig 94 proof and call it a day.
See, Elijah Craig to me comes off as I love Elijah Craig, but sometimes it can come off a little peanutty and oaky, which I don't know. I think it kind of goes against what we were.
I think their small batch doesn't to me, but that's just, that's going to be my like every day. My other thing is go explore rye whiskey under 100 proof, double rye. You can go get Old Forester's rye. You can go get a lot of different rye whiskeys under 100 proof.
That's a good one. Old Forester.
Elijah Craig rye.
That is also an option. I will not have the most glowing review of it, but yes, that's an option.
Well, Elijah Craig toasted barrels popping up. I was going to say, what about some
toasted?
That's also a good one. But again, do you want that oaky flavor in your summer? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I think
the toasted brings some sweetness.
I do
campfire, like campfire marshmallows.
Yeah. I mean, we can always do.
We got a laundry list here.
We got an Elijah Craig flight we can do. Is what it sounds like. We've just created our next podcast with just a 94 proof, a rye, and a toasted.
Let's do it.
Sounds easy enough. Scott, Mike, it's always good to hang out and talk a little bourbon, especially on National Bourbon Day. And we talked a little whiskey and some other spirits as well. We appreciate everyone for joining us on this podcast today. Please rate us, give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast listening app. You can support us on Patreon. We have a couple different levels that you can support us at, and we'd be happy to have you there. There's exclusive content. If you also want Bourbon Lens merchandise, you can go over to bourbonlens.com and get you a Bourbon Lens Libby glass or a t-shirt. And as always, you can find us on our social medias at Bourbon Lens. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
Butt chug.